felt the walls of my perfectly curated life start to close in around me as the shock washed over me. My name is Jenna. I'm 35, and until today, I believed I understood my place in this community and my marriage. The morning began like any other, warm sunlight filtering through the kitchen window, the rich aroma of coffee wafting through the air. My son's laughter echoed from the bathroom as he readied himself for school, that cheerful innocence so strikingly disconnected from the turmoil I was about to face. But then I opened a message from a supposed friend, a community member I once trusted, and everything changed. Jenna, I just wanted to let you know what Rachel is saying. It's hard to believe you've been hiding all this. The words struck like a nail driven deep into my gut, twisting painfully. Rachel, my sister-in-law, was spinning a web of lies, and my name was tangled in the middle. My heart raced as the room began to spin. I felt as if I were careening down a dark tunnel, the walls closing in on me, the shadows whispering all the things I had tried to ignore. I stood frozen in my kitchen, the sounds of my son's playful shouts now distant, muffled as I grasped at the betrayal brewing just outside my view. How could Rachel, once a confidant, now be the architect of my public humiliation? The unfairness gnawed at me, but I had long been aware of her jealous nature, her disdain masked beneath layers of false smiles. Why are you so upset? You're just overreacting, Tom, my husband would say if he ever found out. I could hear his calm voice reverberating in my mind, as if rehearsing a script I begged not to play out. Rachel had been at it for years, planting seeds of discord and discontent, little jibes cloaked in concern that I had only started to perceive clearly. I thought we had developed a relationship built on family bonds, but now the cracks revealed an insatiable hunger for control. The coffee pot gurgled softly, a mundane sound drowned out by the chaos churning in my core. I feigned bravery, though I could feel my defenses weakening. Each heartbeat echoed the memories of laughter shared at our family dinners where Rachel would boast, "You're so lucky to have Tom. Not everyone can achieve what you have without a bit of luck." That tone, mocking yet sweet, had never truly registered until now, its blend of envy and manipulation suddenly sharp as a knife. Steeling myself, I scrolled through the rest of the messages, malevolent notes cloaked in innocence. "Did you hear about Jenna? I can't believe she kept that from us." A wave of dread washed over me, a cold rush I couldn't shake. The devastation felt immense as realization began to set in. Those I had thought were friends were now just echoes of sympathy, masquerading as friends but secretly feeding off the scandal. The kitchen shrank around me, the walls adorned with memories suddenly closing in like a vice. The picture frames lined up quietly on the counter felt like a gallery of lies, memories stained by betrayal. I glanced at the framed photo of our family trip to the lake. Smiles frozen in time, innocence untouched. But in that moment, all I could visualize were the whispered conversations that sidetracked over my retreating image, the light fading behind closed doors in our tightly knit community. I was being transformed into the pariah Rachel had always wanted me to be. Panic rose within me, swirling through my veins as I struggled to comprehend this brutal betrayal. Friends who had once celebrated my successes now stood at a distance, scrutinizing me like a shadowy figure. Was I truly that unaware? Why didn't I see the signs? Each glance and whispered word felt like shards of glass lodged in my heart. And then there was Tom, blissfully unaware of the brewing storm, caught in the web between his loyalty to his sister and the love we had built together. How could I bring this to him? He would only see Rachel's innocent face, the supposed poor girl crying over her elder sister-in-law's cruelty. My heart ached at the thought of burdening him with this insidious drama. Rachel wouldn't lie like this, I whispered to myself, willing myself to believe it. But even as I formed the words, the doubt crept back in. She had orchestrated this assault with such precision, weaponizing her words to corrupt the community's trust in me. It was a calculated betrayal, and I could almost envision her smirk as the townsfolk turned their backs. "Jenna, you have to be stronger than them." The thought flitted across my mind, mixing with my swirling emotions. What did I truly have left if not my resolve? She thought dragging me into the mud would break me, but she didn't know the strength of the soil beneath my feet. This phrase filled my thoughts, weaving its way through the chaos. A simple reminder of my tenacity, one that Rachel had clearly misjudged. I turned to face the kitchen window, inhaling deeply. Birds sang sweetly outside, and their freedom was intoxicating. I would reclaim that freedom. I had supported Tom through years of his career, sacrificing my aspirations and desires for the sake of our family. But this moment marked a turning point. It was no longer about keeping the peace. I would not silently absorb the humiliation. With newfound determination, I poured myself a cup of coffee, allowing the rich aroma to settle my racing heart. A plan began to form in the corners of my mind. It was time to unravel the tapestry Rachel had woven around me, thread by thread. The fight was far from over, and she had ignited a fire within me. I would emerge from these ashes, stronger and more resilient. The pot of coffee burbled on as I gazed out at the vastness before me. It wouldn't be the last time Rachel attempted to drag me down, but I wasn't going to crumble under her weight. I would gather my strength, and in doing so, reclaim my life from the tangled web she had spun. With a firm grip on my coffee mug, I took a deep breath and stepped forward. This battle was just beginning, and this time, I would be ready. I stood frozen for a moment, the taste of coffee bitter on my tongue. The warmth that once radiated from the cup now felt like a weight pressing against my chest. The reality I faced encased me in a heaviness I couldn't shake. I had lived a life of quiet sacrifice, my aspirations brushed aside in favor of Tom's ambitions and the needs of our family. But now, I felt like an exile in my own home, trapped between the past and the unraveling present. As I stared out that kitchen window, memories crashed against me like waves, each one reminding me of the warmth and love I had poured into our lives. I could almost hear the laughter that filled our home during family celebrations. The weight of those moments hung like an anchor around my neck. It was supposed to be a safe haven, a sanctuary. Now, it felt like a prison, and I was its reluctant inmate. I remembered vividly the day Tom had received the promotion he had worked so hard for. We had celebrated at a cozy diner, just him and me. I'd worn my favorite blue dress that night, the fabric fitting me perfectly, accentuating the happiness I felt. "I couldn't have done it without you, Jenna," Tom had said, genuine admiration shining in his eyes. He took my hand, his grip warm and reassuring. "You're my rock, my constant support." But what had I truly sacrificed to give him that success? I had tucked away my dreams of opening my own bakery, the sketches and recipes that remained locked in a dusty notebook beneath the bed. Those fragments of my aspirations had faded into the background of late-night homework sessions with our son and phone calls to family needing favors. I had poured everything into nurturing our family. Yet now, I stood on the precipice of my own undoing, my contributions overlooked and overshadowed by Rachel's venomous scheming. The phone buzzed again, jolting me from my thoughts. Another message, this one from a neighbor, filled with hollow words of sympathy. "I heard the rumors about you, Jenna. If you need anything..." The thought of accepting help caused a pang of humiliation to shoot through me. I could feel the curious, prying eyes of our community turning toward me, conjecturing on my life like it was gossip fodder. I had felt the shift the day Rachel started whispering her poison, an insidious plot born out of envy. As I replayed the memories, snippets of our history flooded back to me, the painful undercurrents in what had seemed like cordial exchanges. How many times had she snickered at my ideas, critiquing everything from my parenting styles to my wardrobe choices. Then, an image surfaced, so clear I could practically feel it, the night of the carnival. Tom had been busy with late meetings, so I attended with my son, hoping to create a memory that might fill some of the gaps left by his father's absence. Rachel had been there, her smile bright enough to reflect the flashing lights around us. But her eyes, their glint had betrayed her. I watched as she leaned into my son, showering him with attention, and subtly undermining my authority as a mother. "Oh, sweetie, don't listen to her. You can have that candy. You deserve it." I had felt defensive, angry even, but hadn't known how to confront her. She played the role of the fun aunt beautifully, against my careful parenting guidelines, weaving herself deeper into our family fabric, while I stood helplessly on the sidelines. As my son gleefully accepted another sugary snack, I could see Rachel's approval twisted into something sinister behind her sweet smile. So many times I had tried to brush her behavior off, justifying it under the label of family dynamics. But now, those justifications felt like shackles. I shuddered at the reality. Rachel's jealousy knew no bounds. In the pit of this churning sea of emotions, the memories grew darker, tainted by betrayal. I recalled the dinner parties where I worked tirelessly to create perfect meals, plating dishes with care while Rachel sat back, contributing little but caustic comments. "Isn't it hard to keep up with everything, Jenna?" You know, cooking is just like parenting. You have to know what they want. Laughter would erupt at her comment as if she had cut me down in jest. I had laughed too, but the truth was, a dagger wedged in my heart. I placed the coffee cup down, my hands trembling slightly. I could no longer afford to listen to her manipulation. The pain of Rachel's betrayal ignited something deep within me, a flicker of defiance swimming in the shadows. I was anything but invisible, and I could no longer endure the whispers and judgments, not when I felt like a ghost within my own life. Suddenly, I craved clarity, the need to break free from the isolation her lies had weaved around me. I longed to pull the curtains back and let the light flood into this darkened room. I wanted to stand tall once again, to reclaim the woman I had always been beneath the surface. With these reflections, I realized I had a choice. I could either succumb to the whispers of discontent or rise from the ashes of my own defeat. I was an architect of my own narrative, despite what Rachel wished to portray. It was time to act. The first steps in my liberation began now, not through anger, but through quiet resolve. I would not let Rachel dictate my worth. Instead, I would start unearthing the roots of this betrayal. I would turn her deceit into the very ladder I used to elevate myself back into the light. I had let emotions rule me for far too long. Now, I would preserve my dignity, examining how I could counter her scheme with the strength I knew still lay dormant within. Tomorrow, I whispered under my breath, a promise laden with intention. The dawn would come, and with it, my journey would truly begin. A journey of revelation and reclaiming my life. The sun crested the horizon, casting golden beams of light into my dim kitchen, an invitation I accepted with determination. I stood at the counter, freshly brewed coffee in hand, the mug warm against my palm, reminding me that today would signify my first steps into reclaiming not just my dignity, but my agency. As Tom headed out, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek, the weight of the day ahead danced in my stomach. He was oblivious, a comfort I both wished to protect and defend against. But latent within me was the knowledge that I had to tread carefully. The walls around my home had ears, and the community had eyes. I needed a plan, and more than that, I needed leverage against Rachel's increasingly pervasive whispers. Later that day, I decided a visit to the local library could be a tactical decision. Hidden among the shelves of books, I could free my mind and explore what resources were available to strengthen my position. As I meandered through the aisles, I brushed my fingers along the spines of novels, each one a journey of its own, yet neither spoke to the immediate war I found myself embroiled in. Then I stumbled upon a section dedicated to community and social dynamics, names of authors sparking intrigue. Settling down in a quiet nook, I began to take notes from a few books about forming healthy boundaries and leveraging social dynamics in communities. An epiphany struck me midway through. Perhaps I should delve deeper into Rachel's machinations, unearthing the clandestine paths she had tried to weave around me. But how would I execute that without alerting her? The library provided the solace I needed, a refuge from the turmoil brewing outside. As day turned to evening, I left the library feeling more resolute, my mind racing with possibilities. I had a fundamental understanding of Rachel's character, twisted and eager to keep her social standing pristine at any cost. But would I find the means to thwart her plans without a rehearsal for combat? Returning home, I entered the guest room, a place I had reluctantly accepted as my new living quarters since the fallout began. It was cold and unwelcoming, but it represented something to me, a private sanctuary where I could strategize. As I stood there, glancing around, something shifted within me, the wall I had built around my heart beginning to crack. With renewed energy, I opened drawers, scouring through items long forgotten, the wedding gift box from Rachel, discarded birthday cards, and old thank you notes to check against her. Then my fingers brushed an unusual shape, a file tucked away, dusty and ignored. I pulled it out, and as I opened it, my breath caught. Inside were old documents, financial records, receipts, and paperwork that traced back to investments Tom had made years ago in partnership with Rachel's husband without my knowledge. I felt adrenaline surge through me, my heart hammering wildly in my chest. This was more than leverage. This was the treasure I'd been seeking. The documents outlined transactions and decisions made in secrecy, a pattern of concealed investments that sent shockwaves through me. They revealed not only significant expenditures, but also hints at possible embezzlement, entries that hinted Rachel had scammed funds for her projects. I may have stumbled upon a scandal buried deep beneath the layers of our interactions with her. I needed to analyze everything more closely, the determination thrumming through my veins like a life source. I knew I had to tread lightly. This was dynamite beneath a fragile surface, potentially compromising more than just Rachel's reputation. But it was also my way out of this entrapment, to reclaim my identity amongst the debris she had strewn about. Days passed in a blur, enveloped in meticulous research. I retraced financial paths, piecing together Rachel's hidden dealings while reaching out to trusted contacts who could help me dig deeper into the accounts she believed were safely buried. Each new piece of information became a brick in the fortress I was beginning to construct, ensuring my safety while dismantling her facade. I had become a figure moving through shadows, gathering intelligence like a watchful hawk. My nightly rituals transformed. I would sink into a comfortable corner of my guest room, laptop glowing warmly in front of me as the world outside faded into oblivion. Each click of the keyboard fueled my resolve further as I began to connect the dots. Rachel's business took steady losses, yet her lifestyle remained ostentatiously unchanged, a telltale sign of deeper corruption. I had shared fleeting moments with Tom, but ultimately, I was careful not to let the weight of this clandestine exploration seep into my delivery. Instead, I focused on building a feeling of normalcy. I cooked our favorite meals, laughed at our son's antics, creating the illusion that all was well, a domestic veneer that camouflaged the tempest brewing beneath. It was during one such ordinary evening as we sat around the dinner table that I felt a surge of clarity. Tom chatted between bites of chicken, and our son animatedly spoke about school, bubbles of innocence evading the storm hovering close. But my mind raced ahead, formulating the perfect plan to bring Rachel down. "I'll give you something to talk about," I rehearsed in my mind. I imagined the moment I would confront her, that mixture of calm and tenacity in my voice, each syllable poised as an arrow aimed directly at her insidious heart. My fingers drummed on the table in practice, visualizing how I would use the secrets I had unearthed against her. The time was approaching. The storm would soon break free from its confines, and I needed to wield the power of knowledge quietly, judiciously. Tomorrow would mark another chapter in reclaiming my life, a moment when the balance would begin to tilt back in my favor, powered by the discoveries I had made in the quiet hours when the world around me fell asleep. It wasn't over yet, but I was ready to take the next step. The dawn of a new day felt different, infused with a strange energy that buzzed beneath my skin. I stood by the kitchen window, looking out at the world I was beginning to see through newfound eyes. Each interaction, each smile cloaked in potential secrecy. I never thought I would relish the role of a quiet predator, yet here I was, ready to continue my investigation into Rachel's trespasses. With Tom gone, I felt the urgency build as I mentally prepped for the day. I gathered my notes, compiled the evidence I had collected meticulously. I could no longer step lightly around Rachel's fortress. If I wanted to dismantle her schemes, I had to be methodical, fluid, just like her. I took a deep breath to steady myself and set off on my mission. I began with a visit to Rachel's small event planning business, hidden away in a cozy corner of town. My heart thudded in my chest, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She was busy on weekdays, typically meeting clients and planning the next grand celebration. Yet I had secured a window of time, during which I planned to poke around, gathering intel and, if possible, insight into her operations. Walking into her office was like stepping into another world. The bright paint and carefully curated decor seemed to pulsate cheerfulness, a facade I knew only hid the chaos behind it. And it was chaos I aimed to unveil. I forced a smile as I greeted the receptionist, exchanging pleasantries as my mind sharpened with intent. This was reconnaissance. I drifted through the salon of support staff, noting every detail. It felt surreal, looking at Rachel's handiwork while simultaneously dismantling that world from within. I caught snippets of conversations, each piece of gossip like gold. "Did you hear how Rachel planned that last wedding?" Ingeniously. "I know she's really been stressed. Things are tight this season." Each thread drew me closer to connecting her burgeoning trouble with the unkempt truth I had already begun weaving. Casually glancing around, I noticed a door at the far end of the office, marked "Staff Only." It beckoned me with a silent allure stronger than my reservations. My chest tightened with anxious anticipation, but I had to know what lay beyond that threshold. I moved closer, ensuring my movements appeared nonchalant, and I pushed the door open, slipping inside. It was dark, a storage room cluttered with remnants of past events, outdated decor, and boxes brimming with forgotten odds and ends. My heartbeat echoed loudly within the silence, creating a rhythm I focused on to keep my nerves at bay. There, in the dim light, I searched for anything that could lend credence to my investigation. My fingers brushed against unopened packages, their labels worn from time, when a flash of color caught my eye. I stepped closer, a folder stacked under the table, mingled with outdated brochures. I dragged it closer, and the moment I opened it, a sense of purpose surged through me. Inside were invoices, receipts, and jotted notes that spoke of contracts and clients, all marked with Rachel's careful handwriting. My heart raced. The discoveries were unfolding with tantalizing clarity. Scanning through the papers, I found contracts for jobs she had claimed were lucrative. Yet they fell short on the projected profits she boasted about in social circles. I tucked a few pivotal documents into my bag. These pieces would bolster my case, revealing inconsistencies in Rachel's tales. I spent an agonizing 20 minutes rifling through the folder, wrapping it up just as footsteps approached from outside. My pulse quickened. I needed to bolt before being caught red-handed. Quietly, I gathered myself, headed to the exit, and snuck out just in time, heart racing. Back at home, I examined the newly acquired evidence with an urgency that felt as if I were peering directly into the fragile web Rachel had spun. Each paper had the potential to unravel her reputation, to pull the curtain back on her duplicitous nature. I was mere steps away from building the reality threatening the facade she held so tightly. Yet the most pressing matter remained: how to confront Rachel once I had gathered everything necessary. My thoughts meandered through various strategies, all contingent on how much she might resist. I would need leverage, something undeniable, something real. Days passed in this delicate cat-and-mouse game of hidden discovery, and soon I began to comprehend the brilliant strategy of manipulating information against her. I needed to stay ahead, continually building upon the foundation I was creating. I took to attending social gatherings where Rachel would typically be present, mingling among her friends under the guise of casual conversation. I made effortless inquiries, fishing for tantalizing snippets of gossip about her business. Was it still thriving, or had her reality begun to chip away? This was all about weaving the narrative that would eventually trap her, and those threads were quickly pulling together. Through subtle conversations, I learned more about Rachel's current successes and failures. I discovered unexpected partnerships she had formed with clients whom she had once claimed were disloyal. The seeds of doubt grew. Small comments would pop up like surprise fireworks, letting me know I was on the right path. I wonder how Rachel manages to take so many vacations without working. One woman's voice chimed as she flipped through her phone at a coffee shop. Her words spun in my mind, echoing my suspicions about Rachel's reality, a facade delicately balanced on hidden secrets. Men and their financial issues, another woman lamented. You never really know how much they're making until the light shines on them. The laughter swirling around me felt hollow, yet their murmurs were gifts, each one challenging me to keep peeling back the layers of deceit. As the puzzle pieces snapped together, clarity brought an electrifying sense of empowerment. I reveled in the knowledge that the spider was ensnared within her own intricate web, oblivious to the hunter gathering momentum just outside. Soon, the time would come, no longer lurking in shadows. I would step forth into the light to reveal the truth. With each passing day, my resolve solidified. I would gather these threads tighter and tighter until they became the noose that would expose Rachel's treachery, an unraveling of her carefully constructed lies. I was no longer a victim. I was an architect of my own redemption, ready to reclaim my narrative. The air was thick with tension as I stood in my guest room, the weight of my gathered evidence pressing down on me like a lead shroud. I meticulously reviewed every piece of documentation I had amassed, constructing a comprehensive map of Rachel's duplicity. It was time to strategize my approach, crafting a justice plan that would unmask her treachery and free myself from the shackles she had placed upon me. I spent hours organizing my notes, thumbing through invoices, contracts, and correspondence, creating a digital dossier, a clear timeline of her actions leading to financial deceit. I noted the glaring discrepancies between her polished public persona and the financial realities she was concealing. Each revelation ignited a fire in my belly, assuring me of the righteousness of my path. With my evidence gathered, I sought out someone who could assist me, a lawyer named Julie, a former classmate who specialized in family and business law. I reached out cautiously, knowing I had little to offer except my determination and the remnants of my honor. To my surprise, she responded swiftly, intrigued by my inquiry. Over the next few days, I met with Julie in her modest office, occupying a space that felt both welcoming and professional, decorated with the accolades of her success. As I explained my findings, her expression shifted from intrigue to disbelief to growing concern. "Rachel is a formidable player in your community," she cautioned. "You have to be ready for a fight. Her connections won't let this go lightly." "I understand," I replied, my voice steady. "But her empire rests on lies, and I'm willing to expose them." Julie reviewed my documents, occasionally raising an eyebrow at the sheer audacity of Rachel's actions. "This is significant," she said, folding her arms. "If you're looking to bring her down, we need to sharpen your approach. This can't be a haphazard confrontation." I felt a spark of energy radiate from her words, the potential within this venture igniting my desire for justice. Together, we outlined a strategy that revolved around leveraging Rachel's own tactics against her. We would methodically pull back the layers she had used to shield herself, exposing her flaws while simultaneously protecting myself and my family, something I was acutely aware of as the battle began to loom. We defined a timeline for gathering further evidence, making pacts to scope out activities surrounding Rachel's business, attending events, scrutinizing her public interactions, all while I could rely on Julie's legal expertise to guide my steps. This joint operation demanded precision, vigilance, and above all, discretion. With each meeting, my confidence built. I learned to sharpen my instincts, transforming the passive energy simmering within me into a weaponized force capable of upheaval. I would no longer be relegated to the background of my own life story. Through my visits, I learned tips for handling potential fallout when the truth emerged, the nuances of public perception, how to control my narrative, and crucially, how to remain resilient. Julie understood the mechanics of this ambush, and I absorbed her advice much like a sponge, readying myself for the storm ahead. Soon, the connection between Rachel's underhanded dealings and Tom's obliviousness to my struggles would fuel everything. Days morphed into weeks, and each gathering I attended became an opportunity to observe Rachel, to measure her reactions, and to gauge shifts in her demeanor. I became adept at piecing together the subtleties of her character, while remaining just aloof enough that she could not suspect my true intentions. I started dropping strategic comments in conversation in a calculated effort to monitor how she responded. "Have you noticed how tight things seem for Rachel lately? I wonder how far she's gone with her finances." These words floated like a breeze through our mutual acquaintances and fell into eager ears, reaching Rachel. I wanted her to feel the whispers seeping through her corners, making her nervous without realizing the source. The more I engaged, the more confidence I drew from this psychological game. I could see her facade crumbling. My opportunity was nearing. As the days slipped by, the justice plan morphed, taking on new insights and dimensions. In a moment of inspiration fueled by conviction, I decided to compile my collected information into a polished presentation, one that could be used as leverage in negotiations or in any conversations that followed. I transformed my digital dossier into a format concise enough to convey the gravity of Rachel's actions while maintaining a professional tone expected in our community. With Julie's expert guidance, I prepared for the inevitable confrontation, the moment when everything I'd uncovered would come crashing down like a carefully orchestrated symphony. I imagined the scene vividly, rehearsing it mentally. I would lay out the truth before her, locking eyes as her veneer shattered, her self-assuredness unwinding before the gravity of her own deceit. The final step resided in manifesting the right timing, ensuring Rachel was vulnerable, perhaps when others were witnessing her interactions, to amplify the weight of the exposure. The perfect theater of justice would bring her treachery to the forefront, confirming everything I felt and knew in my heart about how she had tried to deride me. As I mentally gamed out each possibility, my resolve solidified into a brick wall I would not allow her to penetrate. I practiced speaking softly, yet with an undercurrent of steel, envisioning how the conversation would flow, the quiet satisfaction I envisioned blooming with each syllable. "Rachel," I saw myself saying, "it's time we talk about the reality you've worked so hard to hide. The truth may set you free, but today, it will bind you." This statement echoed through my mind, mapping out my desire for justice while reminding me that my dignity remained untouchable in these moments. The plan was set in motion. I was prepared to take down the web she had spun, using each thread to ensnare her in her own deceit. With the days counting down, I embraced the stillness echoing through my guest room, feeling the final nerves of anticipation nested deep within. I was both a witness and an architect, awaiting the moment when every painstaking detail would fall into place. Soon, there would be no hiding from the truth. The day had arrived, cloaked in an electric anticipation. I slid into a navy dress, its soft fabric a reminder of the dignity I had long sought to reclaim. As I adjusted the neckline, I could feel the weight of history, a narrative I was about to rewrite. Rachel was hosting a charity event at her opulent home, the perfect venue for the confrontation that would finally show her true face to the world. Tom and I arrived to find the house alive with laughter, the air thick with the scent of gourmet hors d'oeuvres and expensive perfume. Everywhere I looked, guests circulated, charming and complacent, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. When Rachel caught sight of me, her smile froze, a fleeting moment of recognition that sent a thrill of adrenaline racing through me. "Jen, so glad you could make it," she exclaimed. The warmth in her voice felt insincere, an act she had perfected over the years. I returned her greeting with a poised smile, hiding the waves of determination brewing beneath. "We wouldn't miss it," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. As we maneuvered through the crowd, I could see Rachel basking in the adoration of her guests, the triumph of her carefully constructed image radiating outward. But tonight, I was determined to dismantle that image piece by piece. As the auction approached, I began formulating my plan for that pivotal moment. Each laugh shared and each glass raised heightened the anticipation that coiled within me, prepped and ready to spring. I waited for her to step away from the spotlight, and soon enough, I found my opportunity. "Rachel, do you have a moment?" I asked, my voice level but assertive, as if inviting her for a casual chat. "Of course," she replied, her feigned enthusiasm doing little to conceal her cautious demeanor. I led her toward a quieter nook, away from the jubilant din of the living room, my heart pounding in sync with the anticipation unfurling around us. "Is everything all right, Jenna?" she asked, the slight quiver in her voice betraying her facade. I leaned in, maintaining eye contact. "I wanted to address some serious concerns regarding your business dealings, specifically your transactions with the estate planning department." The air tensed as her expression shifted from feigned innocence to alarm. "What do you mean?" My pulse quickened, but I didn't hesitate. "You're aware of the discrepancies in your invoices and contracts, promises you failed to fulfill." Her face fell, panic flashing beneath her crafted veneer. "You must be mistaken. That's absurd," she retorted, her defensiveness only confirming my suspicions. "Then explain this," I said, pulling out my phone, revealing the meticulously prepared dossier of evidence. I presented the documents, precise timelines, and communications that laid bare her deception. "Let's let the facts speak for themselves." Her confidence wavered, and I watched as the poise that once defined her cracked under the pressure. "No, you don't understand," she implored, her facade crumbling. "You're making a mistake." "No, Rachel. You've manipulated this community for far too long," I countered, feeling a surge of strength. "Your dishonesty is no longer hidden. It's time for the truth to rise." As I spoke, murmurs began to ripple through the gathering crowd. I caught their gazes flickering toward us. Curiosity piqued, and I gestured towards Rachel, inviting them to witness the unfolding drama. "You've built an empire on lies, and today, it begins to unravel." Gasps echoed around us, and I felt the crowd's tension shift. Disbelief morphed into shock as Rachel's misdeeds came to light. I reveled in that realization, relishing the moment when the center of her popularity began to fracture. "Jenna, I implore you," Rachel whispered, her voice laced with desperation. "We can sort this out privately." But I had reached the point of no return. "There's no more hiding, Rachel," I said, my voice firm, yet edged with a quiet resolve. "Your time of manipulation is over. You will be held accountable, and I'm here to ensure that everyone sees who you truly are." The crowd began to murmur in response. Intrigue and disbelief morphed into palpable tension. Rachel's brow furrowed, and I caught a fleeting glimpse of the panic that had enveloped her. I pressed on, unwavering, watching her wall of confidence crumble. People trusted you, Rachel. They admired you, I continued, the crowd growing quiet, hanging on my every word. But tonight, your web of deceit is being stripped away. You can't pretend this isn't happening. Not anymore. Finally, with a mixture of anger and fear, she attempted to take control one last time. Do you really want to do this here? She shot back, her tone a mix of rage and desperation. You'll regret this, I promise. But my resolve was immovable. I won't regret exposing your lies. It's too late for games. In that instant, I felt a wave of empowerment. Here in this sacred space of righteousness, with witnesses peering from the edges of the calamity, I held the tools of truth in my hands. My heart swelled as the tide turned. I had orchestrated this performance of justice. I had turned the tables, reclaiming my narrative, transforming myself from victim to avenger. In the silence that ensued, I looked around, taking in the expressions that surrounded us. A once admiring crowd, now aghast at the betrayal unfolding before them. The glimmers of disbelief morphed into understanding, and I soaked in the realization that Rachel's castle of lies stood on the verge of collapse. With each heartbeat echoing the tension, I could feel the weight of a community's admiration shift from Rachel, whose reign had lasted far too long, toward me in unexpected solidarity. I was unveiling not just her treachery, but reaffirming my own dignity, a reclamation of the self that once felt so lost among the chaos. Without another word, I turned toward the exit, weaving through the crowd that had once felt foreign. I stepped outside into the cool evening air, feeling a surge of triumph douse the lingering chaos within. I had sought justice, and with resolve and clarity, I had embraced my truth. The world behind me faded. I had broken free from the shackles of Rachel's manipulation, and had stepped into the light of my own fierce resilience. As I stepped out into the cool evening air, a rush of adrenaline coursed through me. The sounds of laughter and clinking glasses faded, replaced by the soft rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. My heart still raced, but this time it was not from fear or doubt. It pulsed with a newfound strength, a testament to the triumph that had begun to coalesce within me. I walked away from Rachel's grand facade, her mansion receding behind me like a surreal dream. The night sky enveloped me, dappled with stars that seemed to twinkle in celebration of my liberation. Each step carried me further from the shadows of manipulation and deceit, into a realm where I could reclaim not just who I was, but who I wanted to become. The weeks that followed transformed me. With each passing day, I embraced the art of rebuilding. I reclaimed my hobbies that Rachel had ridiculed. I dusted off my old paintbrushes and brushes. I lost myself in vibrant colors dancing across canvases that told my story more vividly than any facade ever could. The smell of linseed oil and acrylics filled my studio, invigorating me with hints of possibilities I had long forgotten. I signed up for yoga classes at a local studio, breathing deeply into the practice that nurtured my body and mind. Each downward dog or warrior pose grounded me, helping me build strength and restore my sense of balance amidst the chaos I had endured. I felt my body shift and grow stronger, echoing the internal metamorphosis unfolding beneath my skin. Unexpectedly, I began forming connections with those I had overlooked while immersed in Rachel's demands. I ventured into community activities, organizing events at the local library, volunteering at the food bank, and joining book clubs. With each smile shared and story exchanged, I felt the bonds of genuine camaraderie replace the superficial connections I once shared with Rachel's circle. One afternoon, while volunteering at the food bank, I bumped into Julie. Our eyes met, and the warmth instantly returned, reminding me of the undercurrent of support that had once buoyed me in my darkest days. We embraced tightly, sharing in the shared smiles, our laughter mingling with the sounds of children and families gathering meals. "I'm so proud of you, Jenna," she said, her eyes sparkling with genuine affection. "You've turned the page, and it's beautiful to watch." A warmth blossomed within me at her words. It felt like I was bursting forth from a chrysalis, emerging not just as a new woman, but as someone reborn. It was on a crisp Saturday morning that I truly understood the depth of my transformation. I had committed to participating in a local art exhibition to showcase some of the pieces I had been working on. As I entered the gallery, each canvas came to life, pulsating with my vibrant emotions. Faces bloomed with recognition. My new friends from the community came to support me, the shift from prior acquaintances now tangible and profound. Enthusiastic chatter filled the air, and I felt a sense of belonging among those who genuinely appreciated my artistic expression, my journey laid bare in strokes and colors. As I stood next to my favorite piece, a sweeping landscape depicting a sunrise, symbolizing hope and new beginnings, I noticed a woman approach me. "Your work is incredible," she said, her voice warm. "It tells such a passionate story. I can feel the strength radiating from it." This compliment echoed the spirit I had regained and ignited the hope swelling in my chest. "Thank you," I replied, my heart swelling with gratitude. This piece reflects my journey toward reclaiming my voice and identity. The woman's eyes softened with understanding, as if she recognized the depth hidden behind my words. In the coming weeks, my artwork gained traction, bringing unexpected opportunities my way. I began selling pieces, receiving commissions, and even registering for future exhibitions. I found solace in the creative process, channeling my emotions into my craft. My voice, once overshadowed, now flourished across canvases that vibrated with authenticity. Through it all, I never allowed myself to dwell on the past, replete with betrayal. Instead, I focused on building a future and embracing the person I had become. I began drafting a book, an introspective adventure reflecting on my experiences, coupled with lessons learned about strength, resilience, and artistry. This journey was no longer about revenge, but rather about empowering others who might have felt silenced by someone else's manipulation. Despite all the growth, Rachel remained a ghost in the corners of my thoughts. I'd heard whispers about her attempts to rebuild her own image within our social circle, but it mattered little to me now. My eyes were oriented forward, focusing on the horizon glowing with uncharted possibilities. One evening, surrounded by friends in the studio, sipping wine, and basking in our shared laughter, I looked around. I felt warmth and an overwhelming sense of connection unlike ever before. My heart swirled with appreciation. These relationships were vibrant and genuine, devoid of any pretense. It was then that I realized I had not only discovered freedom from Rachel, but I had cultivated a life so rich and multifaceted that it eclipsed any doubts or reins of the past. The journey was fraught with hardship, but it had also birthed resilience and passion. And so I stood, on the threshold of this exciting new chapter, with the wind rustling gently through my hair and that same immediate feeling of empowerment bubbling within. I was no longer defined by Rachel's influence. I had emerged as my own woman, carving the path of my destiny with purpose, art, and unwavering strength. Emboldened by the clarity of this beautiful transformation, I murmured to myself, "The truth may set you free, but living authentically binds you to a life worth celebrating." With a fierce smile, I opened the door to my studio, stepping boldly into the vibrant tapestry of my new life. The gallery exhibition marking the completion of my first solo show unfolded in riotous color and laughter, an event perfectly choreographed with the threads of my journey. As I assessed each painting displayed on the bright white walls, I was filled with a sense of pride, my canvases bursting with my story, each layer of paint haunting echoes of both struggles and victories. Friends rallied around me, and their support filled the air with laughter and celebration. I could feel the warmth of their admiration as they complimented my work, their faces awash with genuine appreciation. These were relationships born from honesty, and I felt grateful for those who had rallied around me without agendas, encouraging me to express who I truly was. Just as I was stepping into the rhythm of the evening, I spotted Julie across the room, her laughter ringing like a familiar bell. I caught her eye, and she made her way through the crowd, radiating exhilaration. "This is just incredible, Jenna," she proclaimed, her eyes wide as they danced across my pieces. "You've poured your soul into every stroke. It's breathtaking." "Thank you," I replied, my heart soaring with her words. I never expected this response. It was a leap I had to take. I gestured to one of my favorite pieces, an oversized canvas with swirling colors representing chaos and eventual calmness. "This one," I said, "represents my journey from confusion to clarity. It's a reflection of where I've been and who I've become." "That's exactly it," she said, returning her gaze to the painting. "I see your evolution right here. Your healing, your strength. It's all over this work." The conversations flowed effortlessly, bathed in warmth and sincerity. I reveled in connections that felt genuine, nurtured friendships, unintegrated support systems, and a community gathered around a shared appreciation for art and authenticity. As I reflected and engaged with those around me, I couldn't help but feel a bittersweet pang when Rachel's name brushed the edges of my thought. Would she arrive? Would she manage to overshadow my evening somehow? Yet as I stood there, illuminated by the acceptance and joy flowing through the gallery, I found myself surprisingly unfazed. I had experienced the dizzying depths of betrayal, but those shadows no longer held sway over me. I had emerged, not unscathed, but resilient, a phoenix rising from the ashes. Midway through the evening, as the crowd swelled with admiration and excitement, I stepped outside for a breath of fresh air. The night sky revealed a canopy of stars twinkling above, reminiscent of the painted galaxies shimmering in my art. I leaned against the wall, absorbing the atmosphere, contemplating how far I had journeyed into the light after dancing through shadows. As I gazed toward the horizon, my heart filled with warmth. Questions about Rachel's presence faded away, replaced by reflections on my choices and the life I was creating. Was I angry? Perhaps, but it felt muted now, overshadowed by determination and a fervent desire to keep moving forward. That night, I found clarity in my thoughts, unraveling lingering doubts like thread from a well-knit blanket. My goal no longer revolved around revenge. It blossomed into a deeper purpose, sharing my narrative through art and words, pouring my healing journey into a book to empower others like me, lifting those burdened by their own shadows. I would create not just for myself, but for all those who had felt small, marginalized, or voiceless. With renewed purpose, I returned to the gallery, my spirit invigorated. Shortly after, I spotted a familiar figure weaving through the gathering. There stood Rachel. My breath caught for a moment, but I quickly ground myself, embracing the fortitude I had harnessed. Dressed elegantly, she scanned the room until her gaze landed on me. At that moment, I felt an odd mix of emotions swirl within. Did I want to confront her? No. I had grown beyond that point. Acknowledging her presence would not detract from my accomplishments or dilute my joy. As she approached, I steadied my breath, feeling the strength of self-assurance radiating through me. Rachel stopped just short of me, her expression unreadable as she stepped into the bright light of the gallery, momentarily illuminating the doubts hidden in her shadows. "Jenna," she began, her voice unexpectedly soft, laced with a contrived congeniality. "I must admit, your work is impressive. I see you've truly made a mark." I regarded her with steady recognition. "Thank you, Rachel. I've poured my heart into this." My tone remained even, reflective of the confidence I had cultivated. For a brief moment, she appeared almost vulnerable, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, before regaining her composure. "I've heard some incredible things about you lately. It seems like you've found your voice again." There was a vulnerability in her words that struck me, but I had let go of the anger that once confined me. "I have," I replied, sincerity infusing my tone. "I've embraced my journey, and it's leading me toward a vibrant future." For a fleeting second, I contemplated if this was a moment for reconciliation, a moment to point out her deceit and hold her accountable. But ultimately, I chose to transcend that chapter of my life. "I hope you find your own path, Rachel. We all deserve that." The weight of my words hung in the air, a truth laid bare. Friday evening light swept across us, illuminating fragments of existence I had outgrown. Rachel's calculative gaze shifted, the shadow of her past flickering beneath the brilliance of my newfound strength. She paused before her words faltered. "I wish you all the best, Jenna. We can redefine our lives anew, no matter the past," I replied gently, my voice unwavering. That admission felt refreshingly liberating, a fiery release of the burdens that once weighed me down. She nodded and took a step back. I turned away to join my friends, feeling the echoes of her presence shift into mere memories. The purpose of my art was not about unveiling her sins, but rather illuminating my journey and those of others eager to break free from the chains of manipulation. As the evening faded into the night, laughter swirled around me, weaving through melodies suspended in the air. My heart felt lighter than ever before. I was reshaping not just my own narrative, but actively participating in a community where authenticity and courage reigned. In that realization, I began drafting the first lines of my book in my mind. This was just the beginning of a journey I would share, one threaded in resilience, elegance, and empowerment. Each canvas painted, Each word penned was yet another strand in the vibrant tapestry of renewal I was forging. I embraced the moment, embodying all that I had become. I felt ready to soar, a full embrace of the beauty in the unfolding of my new life. In the weeks following the exhibition, I immersed myself in the healing work of writing my book, pouring my heart and soul into every page. The act of creating felt cathartic, transforming pain into wisdom, shadows into light. I began each morning with a cup of coffee by my window, where sunlight streamed through the glass, illuminating the blank pages before me. The world outside buzzed with life, but it was in my little corner that I crafted my narrative, a testament to resilience and renewal. With each word, I unraveled the layers of my past and wove them into a tapestry rich with emotion. I started with the day I discovered Rachel's betrayal, the shock and humiliation, the feelings of being adrift. I captured the moments of despair, but juxtaposed them with the quiet moments of strength I found as I regained my footing. My fingers danced across the keyboard, letting the memories flow like the beadwork of a delicate necklace being threaded together. Then came a breakthrough, the realization that my story was not just mine. It was a mirror reflecting the experiences of others, those who had felt silenced, marginalized, or manipulated. I envisioned sharing not just my journey, but encouraging others to find their voices as well. Each chapter became a call to empowerment, a beacon of hope for anyone searching for their path of authenticity. As the pages filled, I felt an urgent pull to connect with others through workshops and speaking events. Digging out of the darkness had given me a profound sense of purpose. I wanted to inspire change and foster community among those who needed it most. I reached out to local organizations, schools, and libraries, offering to lead workshops focused on artistry, healing, and self-discovery through creative expression. Creating a website became one of my first goals. I envisioned a welcoming place where I could share both my art and my writing, a sanctuary for voices that needed to be heard. Alongside it, I launched a blog to document my journey, sharing snippets of my growth and creative processes. Every post, every brushstroke felt like another step taken toward liberation. Then there was the exhilarating moment I invited friends to my studio for an open mic night. It was an opportunity for everyone to share their own stories, sing their own songs, and display their own art. As I sent out the invitations, I could feel a thrilling sense of community building, a gathering of those eager to connect through authenticity rather than pretense. On the night of the event, the studio twinkled with fairy lights, and I arranged soft cushions and seating to create a warm atmosphere. The scent of herbs wafted through the air from the small display of fresh dips and breads I'd prepared. Simple, yet inviting. I was both nervous and excited. This felt entirely new, but it was exhilarating all the same. As friends arrived, I welcomed each one with a hug, feeling the bonds of our cherished community wrap around me. I introduced the event and encouraged everyone to share openly. This was a safe space for stories, for laughter, for tears. As I set the tone, I felt the familiar prick of vulnerability, but this time, it felt light, not burdensome. I opened the floor, inviting someone to share first. One by one, friends began to speak, sharing truths that echoed through the room. Their narratives started as whispers and transformed into powerful declarations, moments of triumph, heartache, dreams unfulfilled, and those shimmering glimpses of hope. I sat by, a witness to their strength, soaking in the beauty of their stories unfurling before me. During the night, I found myself reflecting on my own experiences. I stepped into the circle to share a piece of my book and the liberation I had found through art. I expressed my gratitude for all who stood beside me, validating my journey and empowering me to exist as my true self. Follow your own path, find your light, I spoke, my voice steady and heartfelt. We all deserve to be seen and heard. Embrace your story, for there are countless stories intertwined within it. When we share our truths, we weave a community of resilience, a tapestry of voices that echo with strength and authenticity. When the night came to a close, I felt profoundly changed. The smiles, laughter, and embrace of shared experience hung in the air like a delicate perfume. As I looked around the room, I realized that not only had I created a platform for others to heal, but I had fostered a sense of belonging that nourished us all. Over the following months, the workshops blossomed into a beloved routine. They became spaces where individuals shared pieces of their journeys, encouraging one another to explore, to create. What began as a personal quest transformed into a community endeavor, a sanctuary where creativity flourished in myriad forms. I also reached out to local schools and community centers, sharing the importance of artistic expression as a transformative outlet. I introduced art programs, painting, writing, and music to students of all ages. With each session, I witnessed a spark, the captivating moment when someone began to discover their own voice through creation. As my book neared completion, I envisioned it not merely as a story of mine, but a movement that encouraged others to reclaim their narratives. I sought feedback from those in my workshops, recognizing the collective wisdom swirling around that could enhance not just my writing, but their own journeys. One afternoon, as I sat at my desk, reviewing the final draft, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. The completion of that book marked a profound transition, a symbol of my transformation, and a gift I wanted to share with the world. My words were infused with a sense of liberation, a beautiful journey threading between vulnerability and strength. With the final chapters articulated and personal anecdotes woven throughout, I felt ready to launch my creation into the world. The culmination of that process was not just for me, it was for everyone who had felt the weight of silence and had yearned for their truths to be heard. As I prepared to approach publishers and discuss the idea of self-publishing, I felt the warmth of excitement envelop me. The echoes of the past lingered, but they transformed into echoes of encouragement. The journey had indeed been tumultuous, yet now it was a tapestry graced with the vibrancy of new life. And so, standing at the precipice of this new chapter, with paint on my fingers and words flowing through me like rivers of light, I opened my heart wider than ever before to a future that lay ahead, uncharted and exhilarating. The summer sun filtered through my workshop as I prepared for the launch of my book, The Colors of My Journey. This title embodied my transformation, celebrating every brushstroke and word, chronicling my path from pain to empowerment. The anticipation of the launch filled the air with excitement and a hint of anxiety. I chose to self-publish, an exhilarating but daunting prospect. This meant full ownership of my narrative without gatekeepers. The pressure was palpable, the weight of personal accountability heavy on my shoulders. But I was driven, knowing that I was not merely publishing a book. I was crafting a vessel for liberation, mine and potentially many others. As the days passed, I immersed myself in the mechanics of self-publishing, formatting, cover design, and marketing strategies. I collaborated with a talented graphic designer, creating a cover that reflected the essence of my story, an explosion of colors swirling around a phoenix, symbolizing renewal and hope. Small, bold letters proclaimed, "Reclaim your narrative," a message I hoped would resonate deeply. The launch day arrived, a culmination of sleepless nights and relentless dedication. I invited friends, workshop participants, teachers, and community members to celebrate at my studio, transforming it into a lively, welcoming space. Tables displayed copies of my book, alongside vibrant canvases that echoed the emotions of my journey. Guests filled the room, their energy palpable. Among them, Julie, my steadfast friend, helped welcome everyone. Her support warmed my heart, reminding me of the journey I had traveled to reach this moment. As the time for my reading approached, a hush settled over the crowd. The pulse of excitement churned within me. I took a deep breath and stepped to the front. "Thank you for being here," I began. "This book holds my journey, a manifestation of the shadows I've traversed and the light I now embrace. It invites each of you to reclaim your own narratives." I read excerpts that captured the essence of my transformation, blending vulnerability with strength. The audience leaned in, enraptured as I shared tales of heartache intertwined with healing. I shared a poignant poem that had captured my evolution, resonating with the shared experience of reclaiming one's identity. Following the reading, an exhilarating wave of warmth washed over me as people approached to discuss the book, share their experiences, and celebrate our collective moment. One woman, her eyes shimmering with emotion, thanked me for sharing my truth. "You've moved me in ways I can't explain," she said. "I felt lost for so long, and tonight has ignited something in me." I smiled, heart swelling with gratitude. "You're not alone. We all deserve to reclaim our paths." The success of the launch led to more opportunities. Over the next few months, community interest flourished. I began receiving invitations to join panels, discussions, and speaking events, eager to share the importance of storytelling in our healing journeys. Local bookstores invited me for signings that transformed into gatherings celebrating voices both heard and unheard. As I accepted each opportunity, a deep sense of purpose surged through me. I envisioned incorporating community art projects into my workshops, proposing collaborative mural designs where participants could express their journeys. These murals took on lives of their own, vibrantly representing shared experiences and collective healing. Weeks passed, and what began as a book launch blossomed into a movement. The workshops became sanctuaries where individuals came together, sharing their stories, fears, and dreams, finding solace in the acknowledgement of their truths. I witnessed the profound impact of our shared narratives, the way connections blossomed among those who gathered. Reflecting on the transformation that occurred, I recognized that my journey had been anything but linear. Each pain, each moment of doubt, was now a vibrant part of the tapestry that adorned my life. In every workshop, every engagement, and every mural created, I found indelible strength among the community we built together. The past lingered in my memories, but it no longer defined my narrative. I continued to step forward with courage and compassion, a guide to encourage others to embrace their voices and artistic expressions. With each event, I turned deeper into the essence of my purpose, to inspire others, to create platforms where empowerment flourished. And as I fostered connections and nurtured creativity, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride in how far I had come. It was an embodiment of resilience, a celebration of reclaiming identities and journeys. I understood more than ever that we could wield our narratives to forge strength, understanding, and hope. Standing at the intersection of creativity and empowerment, I realized that while echoes of the past could whisper in the background, they did not dictate my melody. I would continue to celebrate not just my journey, but the journeys of all those who dared to rise. As I dove deeper into this vibrant tapestry of connection and creativity, my heart swelled with appreciation for all it held. The colors of my journey ran deeper than I had ever imagined, a testament to the boundless potential that lay within each of us. And so, I began penning new ideas for upcoming workshops and projects, ready to embrace the future, with the same fierce determination ignited in the flames of my rebirth, a commitment to keeping the light alive and a vow to always celebrate the beauty of reclaimed narratives.